Hey, this is Web Suspect, and I thought I'd do a little story today on this article that InfoWars did, and it's also up at Gizmodo. The Army builds a fake city in Virginia to train its troops is one headline. Um, we have the somewhat over sensationalistic title at InfoWars: U.S. military trains for war on Second Amendment, and my story is going to relate this whole thing to something that Steve Jobs used to touch on a lot: intuition versus rationality. Okay, so we're gonna look at this city. We're gonna take some looks at this city. We're gonna review the structures in it. We're gonna compare intuition versus rational thinking, and the intention of what the park is for comparing them both. As far as what it is, it's a asymmetric warfare training center at Fort AP Hill in Virginia, and I'm going to play the clip from InfoWars, and which they say, quote an article from the UK London that says that there is a church in the city and a mosque. They don't show pictures of the mosque, they just show pictures of the church. So here's the mosque right here. We're gonna find the city on the map. We already found it. We know where it is. And so we're going to review the whole topics of asymmetric warfare. Since I never accepted accommodation for the military as a lieutenant officer's OCS training camp, finishing high school, because I don't agree for killing brown people for money over oil. We'll take a look at all that. And if you want to win the war against Arabs in the Middle East, just stay out of it. They'll kill each other. That's how you win. Just stay out of it. Mind your own business. That's what Ron Paul says. But here we go. We're going to review the article from InfoWars.
And they've made it clear that their enemy is gun owners, veterans, those who want a small limited government, and Christians. The UK Telegraph reported that the town was complete with a subway, railroad, football field, and mosque. Mosque? That's not a mosque.
Okay, so as we saw at the beginning of the article, we found the mosque over at the article that we quoted from Gizmodo. Let's see here, we'll find the article. There's the mosque right there. And we're on the map. If you go to the Bing Maps, the city's not even built. So the city's been built 2 years, and the maps rotate every 1 to 2 years. And so, like, a lot of the maps satellite maps don't even have a complete image, which I'm sure the government runs into all the time. They don't even have a complete image of the makeshift city, but here is the makeshift city. There are links to the article. I'm not going to give the exact latitude and longitude and all that of the city, but here's the turnabout. There's a turnabout there, and the little church is here. So they've put the church across the street from the mosque, which is kind of interesting. And the mosque faces southeast, I'd say, and the church also faces south. We got some various buildings here. This one, I have no idea what it is. This building here kind of leans inward. We got a small office building here, random building here, maybe a house or something. This was not completed at the time this satellite picture was taken. We have some more office buildings here. I think maybe this one, well, they both could be federal buildings, but both of the buildings have small windows. This is a 5-story building with a fire escape on the outside. This is a 5 or 6-story building across from it. Looks like maybe could be a hospital. Has either a fountain on the outside or a helipad. I'm not really sure. Got some white cars, construction equipment. Here's a tower, another building there. Also has some rail lines coming in, which are just incomplete. They said they would have a railway, but this is a train station here. This one's a train station. Some more train lines. I would suspect that the indoor rail line is here. They have a little mock-up of the DC Metro. This area here is not finished, so I would suspect that went in there. There's some other buildings here that look like kind of modern study buildings, so these might be little like OCS officer training school, candidacy school buildings for military cadets to train at, and that's right around the corner. So maybe that's part of the asymmetric warfare training park. Maybe they go to that building to train about what they're going to do at the park. It's like a Disneyland for people in the military. We give you a little introduction and you go into the park. But for my 2 cents, I just wanted to say the InfoWars article is wrong. I give InfoWars so much crap. It could be true. It's an asymmetric training warfare park. Could be training for people against the Second Amendment people, or it could be training for fundamental Islamic terrorists. Just don't know. But there's a good article in here. I've been researching this lately because Generation Y has trouble with critical thinking skills, and that's usually a rational skill, and they usually just bypass, Generation Y usually just bypasses rational thinking for intuition and grabs their iPhone and starts looking things up, which, the us older people, we use our critical thinking skills to look up thinking too, but Generation Y tends to be dysfunctional because they come from broken families and they just tend to grab the iPhone and send people messages when they're at their dinner and stuff. There's some little clips from Steve Jobs here. You get intuition back when you make space for it. When you stop chattering in the rational mind doesn't nourish you. You assume that it gives you the truth because the rational mind is golden calf that this culture worships, but this is not true. Rationality squeezes out much that is rich and juicy and fascinating. Well, what I thought about that is if you're using rational thinking versus intuition, you often don't run into the critical errors that you have with intuition. So in other words, you have a rational thought that maybe this person will be a problem because they have all these other problems, so you avoid them, or you just get a feeling that's sort of intuition. But you can work through things with critical thinking. It's like A plus B equals C. A lot of times, like during the Black Plague, people thought that cats caused the Black Plague, but it was mice. In other words, that they didn't use the scientific method to figure out what was actually causing the problem. They just started killing the cats, and that made things worse. So nowadays we use more of the scientific method, and certainly Apple computers did use the scientific method, but oftentimes things didn't work and they pushed through with intuition, and they were able to stumble around and sell products. And that's kind of how the computer market works. I don't really understand the computer market totally. I know that if the computer breaks, how to fix it, and so you can sort of bypass both of those mechanisms. So a lot of times you can bypass intuition with rational scientific thinking, but I'm not really sure that you can bypass rational thinking with intuition, although sometimes you might get lucky and you just feel like you're going in the right direction to move it, but sometimes your heart can mislead you, and I don't hear Steve Jobs warning people, sometimes your heart can mislead you, and you have to use the scientific principles to work through a problem. So I'm not trying to drive articles like a lot of people are talking about. I call it mini-meing, where people try to drive a particular article. This was something I'm from a military family. I thought it was interesting that the military spent $96 million for this training park. I was curious as to where it was, and oftentimes when it comes up that a certain institution reports on a story, that it's not always totally true. So you keep that in mind when you look at the source of something, whether it's true or not. This park has both a church and a mosque, but interestingly enough, it does not have a synagogue. So maybe that would be a story here, that the asymmetric warfare park doesn't have any synagogue. I guess, Christians and Muslims can be terrorists, but not Jewish people. So there you go.